It's a totally bonkers day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast has just created a strange new banned list for Commander and put 40 cards on that list. On top of that, they've also released the details for the new Commander bracket system.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a big, thick, and juicy installment of Mega Magic News. This is Ultra Commander Edition. Wizards of the Coast has finally revealed their bracketed plans for Commander decks, and it's actually turned out to be 5 tiers instead of 4. And along with that, we've got a special new list of cards that are to be avoided. Into this Commander craziness, I'm going to put up an image on the screen showing you all 5 of the new brackets for Commander. Now, when Wizards showed this off in the stream, they slow rolled it one little tier at a time, and then they also made you wait to see the Game Changer list, which is specific cards that are banned in particular tiers. So we're going to go through all the tiers, and then I will slap the list up so you can see all 40 of those cards. We'll go through it and talk about this insanity. So when it comes down to the brackets, you have bracket number 1. This is the exhibition bracket. This is your ultra casual Commander decks. So you have no mass land denial or extra turns. So how that works is mass land denial is anything that bounces a bunch of lands, destroys a bunch of lands, basically messes with your opponent's mana base, and they specified mass is considered you hitting 4 or more lands in one go. So that is not allowed in the first bracket. Also, no 2-card infinite combos and no game changers. So the game changers are that banned list that we talked about, and we will go over all that after we've talked about these tiers. At the bottom, it says a few tutors. So you're allowed to have a couple of tutors in there. The second is the core bracket. Now this one says the average current pre-constructed deck. So again, no mass land denial. You can have extra turns, but you can't chain extra turns, which means you can play a spell that gives you an extra turn, but you can't take extra turn after extra turn after extra turn. Taking more than one extra turn equals chaining extra turns. This bracket also says no 2-card infinite combos and no game changers. Again, you can use a few tutors. So you'll notice both of these brackets outright will not allow game changers, which is the name of the banned list that we're dealing with for this particular set of deck concepts. Anything beyond this will allow some level or all of the game changers. So for example, bracket number 3 is upgraded beyond the strength of an average precon deck. Again, still no mass land removal, which shows how clearly Wizards wants to steer people away from that. No chaining extra turns, but you can have late game 2-card infinite combos. Now, their definition of late game could be anywhere from turn 6 to turn 9 or onwards, depending when you read the article or listen to the live stream. There was a little bit of nebulousness with it. So this is where you can have 3 cards from the Game Changers list, right? So this is the most interesting of the brackets where they've got some restrictions, but also allow for some things. Number 4 is optimized. This is high power Commander where you just go ham. There are no restrictions aside from the actual banned list, not the game changers. And then CEDH is being given its own tier where this is high-powered with a very competitive focus. So these are the decks where you're going to have no room for any silliness at all, and you have to be 1000% focused on winning. And this one also has literally no restrictions aside from the banned list. Now, let's take a look at the game changers so we're all on the same page before we really start to get into what all these tiers mean. So the game changer list goes like this. I'm gonna fire it off. It's up on the screen for you, but some people will be listening to this when they're driving or otherwise not able to stare at the screen. So these are the game changers. In white, you've got Drannith Magistrate, Enlightened Tutor, Sarah's Sanctum, Smothering Tithe, and Trouble in Pairs. In blue, you've got Cyclonic Rift, Expropriate, Force of Will, Fierce Guardianship, Rhystic Study, Thassa's Oracle, Urza Lord High Artificer, Mystical Tutor, Jingataxis Core Augur. In black, you've got Bolus's Citadel, Demonic Tutor, Imperial Seal, Opposition Agent, Tergrid God of Fright, Vampiric Tutor, Ad Nauseam. Red's only coming in with 2 cards, Jeska's Will and Underworld Breach. Green's only got 3 cards on the list currently, Survival of the Fittest, Vorinclex Voice of Hunger, and Gaia's Cradle, which, I mean, technically is a land, but they put it in the green category, right? Multicolor is Kinnan Bonder Prodigy, Yuriko, Winota, and Grand Arbitral. And you'll notice actually with the multicolor category, these are all cards that, yes, you can use in your main deck, but can also be your commanders, right? And then you've got the colorless tier, which is Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, The One Ring, Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale, Trinisphere, Grim Monolith, Lion's Eye Diamond, Mox Diamond, Mana Vault, and Glacial Chasm. So this is a wide list of cards. Now, first off, when you look at this, you're probably going to be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, there's some stuff definitely missing from here. Why don't we have Mana Drain on here? Why don't we have Esper Sentinel on here? There are a lot of cards that totally feel like they are on this insane level of power that Wizards hasn't included. And ultimately, when you look at what they've done as a whole, it really doesn't feel like it's meant to be truly useful from the perspective of settling anything. And it's really just another variation of Rule 0 overall. We were originally told that they were going to go through all the different cards and categorize them into different tiers. But instead, when they come out with this, they only have a list of 40 cards. So when you take a look at this game changer list, you go, okay, so I can't use any of these game changers in tier 1 or 2. And even though it says the first 2 tiers, the first 2 brackets, I use those terms interchangeably. Even in those, it says, yo, you can use a few tutors, but you're not allowed to use any of the tutors that are actually in the game changers list. And it is a bit head scratching because how much stronger is the white enlightened tutor versus the blue mystical tutor or green worldly tutor? They're all 1-cost tutors that will let you get a card really quickly in the game. And it feels really arbitrary what Wizards has selected to put onto this list. So when you look at it, you go, okay, so I can put 3 of these cards into my level 3 deck, or 4 or 5 can have any number of these, but they're right out for 1 or 2. But Wizards puts a little asterisk up in the air going, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, it's up to you to decide what's going on. We can't stop bad actors. We can't force people to be truthful with you. So when it comes down to it, ultimately they're throwing their hands up in the air and going, well, there's nothing we can do. It's still up to you to have discussions ahead of the game and figure out what's acceptable. The real reason that Wizards of the Coast has set things up like this, and I predicted this in the past, and you can go back and check my previous videos. That's one of the things I love about making these videos, is I can point back and go, this is what I said was going to happen, and it's absolutely what's happening. The reason they have the game changer list isn't actually to protect any kind of gameplay. It isn't to have any real codified sort of rule set. This is so that they can unban magic cards. They specifically even say that. It's a place where we can use it to either unban or ban magic cards, but we probably won't really be banning anything using it. So they're admitting the whole point is to unban cards, right? The idea, the underlying thrust of what they're doing here is they're opening the door so that they can reprint anything and everything that's not specifically on the reserved list. So with this setup, having tier 4 and 5, they can always just go, oh, these cards are tier 4 and 5, or they're game changers. We literally put them on the game changer list. So, hey, it's fine that we unbanned it because it's a game changer. So you can't use it in the bottom tiers. But if you go and look at people talking about this, they're saying, wait a minute, all my decks are tier 1 according to these lists, but they're wildly varying in power. These tiers are essentially useless, right? You may as well just say everything's a 4. We used to have everybody saying their commander decks was a 7. Now you're either going to have everybody saying their deck's a 4 or a 1, right? Or if it's CDH, obviously it's going to be a 5, but that one's already sorted. Those guys have already figured themselves out, and actually taping the CEDH onto it is just a nod to them. It really doesn't feel any different than level 4. So ultimately, this is a toothless system. And it's like, we created this system so if you go somewhere and you're playing with people you don't know, you'll have guidance and whatever. But ultimately, you can just completely ignore it, which means you're going to end up with the same arguments. But now Wizards can be like, oh, hey, guess what? We just unbanned Primeval Titan. We're just going to go ahead and throw that on the, we're going to go ahead and put it on the list right now. So it's a game changer for now, but maybe it'll drop down a level. They even said that either as people's viewpoints on things shift or the state of the game shifts. Otherwise read as power creep makes Magic crazier and crazier, some of this stuff won't seem that strong and will literally drop it off the game changers list. But the game changers list is way smaller than it needs to be. It is in no way binding whatsoever. And Wizards they are foaming at the mouth with the idea of using these brackets to sell a super expensive commander deck. So it was originally touted as we're going to get all this kind of balance to the format and we're going to come up with something that's more useful for people. But this isn't more useful. This is totally just, hey, we're throwing our hands up. We know we told you we were going to do this, but this is what you get instead. And in the article, they specifically said, imagine the excitement. We can actually make directly like tier 3 precons to sell you. And you know they will be at a higher price point. Remember when I was talking about these brackets before and I said it's going to be an excuse to unban everything, to never have to ban anything again. So what they'll do is they're just going to do batches of unbannings. It's going to go like this. Oh, hey, Primeval Titan's unbanned. Iona's unbanned. And it just so happens that the next product we're releasing happens to have those as special edition treatments, only as super mythics, only in the collector boosters. Chase them, you monkeys, right? So they're going to do that, and they're going to sell us hideously expensive commander decks. Remember when they had those special Modern Horizons 3 decks and they were charging more for them? And people literally asked Blake, the PR manager, who is completely dead inside. If you ever listen to him, I'm so happy to be here. But anyways, they asked him, what makes these decks premium for this price? And he goes, we never said these decks were premium. They're always looking for ways to crank the prices on us. So this is just an excuse to create higher tier commander decks and go, well, with the higher tier decks, we've got to charge more money, right? So you're looking, I wouldn't be surprised at all to find $400 tier 3 decks, $600 tier 4 decks, $1,000 tier 5 decks, where they looked at the secondary market, calculated the value, and went, here's what you get. This 100% reads to me as, how do we keep rule 0 and still put everything on the player? Every other format in Magic has defined rules, and they just go, well, no, it's a casual format. And so, oh, but you're also saying you're going to set us up with what we need to be able to interact with strangers. And then you give us a nebulous, useless setup where somebody could come in with, this is my donkey deck, where everybody is a donkey and they have little Shrek quotes on them, and they can play against like stacks, bro, literal stacks decks. They're like, I'm gonna make you stack a bunch of crap, I'm gonna hose your day, and it's gonna be a miserable experience. None of that's on the list. None of that is on the Game Changers list. Some of the most broken, awful stuff to play against is literally considered, oh, that's just level 1, right? Like, it's absolutely bonkers. It doesn't seem like this is going to resolve any situation that anybody has in regards to anything. It really does feel like Wizards of the Coast tricked us and said, we're going to take Commander very seriously now that it's under our control. And we're going to take the time to go through all of the Magic cards. And remember when I said the logistics of them, how are they going to go through 25,000 different Magic cards? Well, clearly they were just lying to us from the get-go. And they came out, they didn't even bother to make a more comprehensive list of game changers. You're telling me these are the only 40 game changers in all the Magic cards that exist? There are 30,000 Magic cards that exist now, bare minimum. 30,000 different unique Magic cards. And when we tuned into the stream, they literally showed this game changer list, and people were like, well, what about cards that are similar to cards on the list? And so Gavin launches into an explanation talking about Demonic Tutor, and he's like, listen, Demonic Tutor, you know, it's on the game changers list because it's really strong. But a card like Enlightened Tutor, and then he starts to talk about Enlightened Tutor. But Enlightened Tutor's on the Game Changer list. It's like they didn't even know what was on the list. It feels to me like they might have made the list 5 minutes before the stream started, where they're just like, oh, you know what? homework's due. Hold on. Let me just quickly bang out some cards and we'll say that's the list. This is essentially the least that they could do to come out and say, hey, we've created a tier system. But ultimately, this is done in bad faith. This is literally just to Trojan horse the whole, now we can unban everything. We'll never have to ban another card so we can protect our reprint equity, because they begged the Commander's Rules Committee, please do not ban Jeweled Lotus. Do not ban Mana Crypt, because those are big ticket items that they reprinted again and again and again. And they will come off the banned list. It will take time because Wizards is obviously not going to do it so recent to when the actual bannings happened. That would be bad optics. Plus, there's a bunch of other stuff to milk off the list first. So you just watch. They are literally going to start pulling cards off the list to coincide with when they make them available for sale. And they're saying, oh, this is just a beta test and we're just kind of feeling it out. But ultimately, they're going to come back and say, hey, it's successful, and not change the structure of it because it lets them do the one thing they want to do. Milk us for every dollar humanly possible. And I find this exceptionally frustrating because I have just found the joy of playing Commander. Before now, I started about 2 weeks ago really getting into Commander, and I already have like 10 precons. Let's be real. I love it. It's a lot of fun. It's a format that has a lot to recommend it, but the whole crazy setup and the arguments you get in with people about what should be in decks and everything, we have needed something better than Rule Zero for a very long time. That honestly only works when you're sitting down with a group of friends going, Jerry, so help me. If you play that deck again, I'm gonna go WWF with this chair on you, bro. It might not even be WWF anymore. That was like a million years ago. Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah, right? So it's a situation where, yeah, you got a group of friends, you can talk about this no problem. But this is literally meant to solve the problem of playing with people that you don't know when you go to a big Magicon, when you go to a local game store for the first time. And as far as I'm concerned, this is an absolute failure. It does not address any of the concerns. It's literally just Rule Zero in a different dress, with Wizards going, oh baby, it's time to milk the secondary market and take these chumps for everything they got. That is the genuine vibe. I looked it over and I went, this is silly. This is essentially toothless, and it does not have nearly enough direction when it's meant to be used as direction, right? I'm not saying that they have to have a 100% hardline set of rules for every single card in Commander. I understand that's a lot to deal with, but there's a certain tier of cards that you definitely need to pay more attention to, and they definitely need to have more than this loose guideline where every deck can fall into a 1 very easily, or a 2, with the exception of 40 cards that in no way comprehensively cover all the game-changing Magic cards that exist. So, I have more to say on this subject. I'm going to do a live stream tonight over on my live stream channel where you guys can share your input. We'll have a back and forth, get into the overall discussion of it because it is a huge subject to unpack. You're also welcome to let me know what you think down in the comments below. So, that being said, time to wrap it up. Big thank you to my patrons for supporting my channel. You guys rule, and I will see you all, my friends, in the next video. Thanks for coming by.